start off by thanking all y'all for coming here, even though it's not Pastor Seth preaching, but me. But and of course, I want to thank him for allowing me this opportunity to do this. Thank you, Pastor Seth. And before we get into my message, let's pray. Lord, I just thank you for allowing me to be up here tonight. Lord God, I just pray you direct me and give me the words that you want me to speak, Lord. And I just pray open up the hearts of everyone in this room and just direct all of us, Lord Jesus. And I thank you in your name I pray. Amen. Amen. So first, y'all want to hear something funny?
No.
You might. So the last time I spoke was a few months ago at my little outreach I had. And I prepared for that message, and I had that message really dialogued out, and I rehearsed that message when I had everything written out. And on the first part, I had let's pray. And so when I would rehearse it, I would make funny noises. I would goof off during that part because I wasn't gonna pray like I was starting. And so when the night came to do that, I got up there and I just completely forgot to pray. And after everything was done, Wayne back there came up to me and said, "Hey, I noticed you forgot to pray." And out of everyone there, it was him. But of course, at least he was the only one that said something. And so thank you. All right. So let me get into it. Early last year to the end of the summer, I got really heavy into playing video games, and I started playing. That's the word I had down here. I got consumed with it, and I started playing with these guys that they weren't good influences. They used really bad language, and they just did all kinds of other stuff, and I noticed that I knew, and I ended up stop playing with some of those guys. That I still play with a lot of them, and I knew if I continued to play with them, I would start to act and talk like them. And so, during that time, I had a relationship with Jesus, but it wasn't very strong. So, what I ended up doing, I ended up cutting back from about 20 people I was friends with to about 2, then eventually to 1, for those reasons. And that brings me to my message, and that is keeping Jesus number 1. And of course, there's things we have to do in order to keep him number 1 and to keep him the center of our life. And so my first point is you have to have a mindset for number 1. And what I mean by a mindset for number 1, I mean, Christ is supposed to be our number 1 in all things. And my Bible verse for this is Colossians 3:2, and set your mind on things above, not on earthly things. So to have a mindset for number 1, you have to want to have it. Not just to put him there, but to keep him there. And whatever takes your mind off of him, of course, is a distraction. And as you hear all the time, there's a lot of distractions. And for me, it used to be playing Xbox. But really, you have to pray. You have to ask God to learn how to balance, him and whatever distraction it is. But what you really have to do, he is more important than whatever that distraction is, and you just have to really understand that. And just really pray and ask God to show you the way to approach that. Alright, so now to my second point, and that is, and this is a tough one for all of us, and that's you have to be obedient to the Lord and to all in authority over you. And my Bible verse for that is Revelations 14:12, and that says, "This calls for patient endurance on the part of the people of God who keep his commands and remain faithful to Jesus." And I know you could say, I get the part about being obedient to God, but what about, you said all of those in authority over you, like even the ones that are, they're not really nice people and they're rude to you and they don't treat you right. Well, you have to be, as hard as it is, you have to be obedient to them too, Because in Romans 13:1 says, "Let everyone submit to the governing authorities, since there is no authority except from God, and the authority that exists is instituted by God." And that is saying, whatever person in your life that is placed in authority over you, they were placed there by God, no matter how you look at it, and even if they're not nice people. And yet it's hard to understand that, but you have to trust that the Lord has got you, because He does. But on the other hand, of course, you have to be obedient to the Lord. Like if He's wanting you to do something, you're afraid of what the outcome may be. What I encourage you to do in that situation is to really pour out your heart to Him and ask Him, what it is you want to do, and just trust in Him. And it may take time, but He will answer you. And if there is someone in authority over you that doesn't treat you right, what you really need to do in that situation, you need to pray for them. Pray that the Lord will change their heart through Him, because really, He can change anyone. As hard as that is to believe, and He can change anyone. And if you do these things, you will surely be keeping Him number one in that aspect. Alright, so for my third point, and I know this is something we all struggle with because it is extremely hard to do, and that is loving others like Jesus loves us. Like I said, it is an extremely hard thing to do, but it is a command from Jesus that's found in John chapter 13, 34, 35. And it says, I give you a new command. Love one another just as I have loved you. You are also to love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. See, but it's easy to love the person that, people that are cool and fun and nice to hang out with, but it's easy to love people like that, but it's really the people that's, they're not really cool, they're not fun to hang out with, the people that you wouldn't really surround yourself with, and, people like that, some would call the unlovable. And I know we all have that one person that we could see and pick up that empty chair right there and just hit them with it and not really care. But of course we can't do that because the Bible says so. But seriously, to keep Jesus number one in your life, you must love everybody. Because it is hard to do, but you have to. Now, for me, that person that it's hard for me to, I love him. That's my brother Jacob. I love him, but he's the person 75% of the time I want to pick up a chair and hit him, but I don't do that. I really want to. Sometimes I don't. But of course, I love him because he's my brother and I'm a Christian. And I'm supposed to do that. But really, to have a Jesus-centered life, you must love. And I'm telling you, you will reach so many more hearts of the people if you simply just love. And I know this has been quick, but this is my last point right here. And this is something Pastor Kevin Mills said a long time ago, and it's stuck with me since then, because I knew at the time I wasn't doing this. And as I was thinking and praying of what the Lord had me to say tonight, He reminded me of this. And so, in order to keep Jesus number one, and to understand how to be obedient and to love others in a Christian way, that is, you have to feed yourself. And this is so important because you will never grow in your faith if you don't do it. And of course, what I mean by feed yourself is, spend time in His Word and really praying and deep prayer. And I know it's hard when we have such busy lives and whatever we're doing, we always have something to do, it seems like. And it leaves little time to do those things. But in that little time, what we really need to do, we need to really talk to God. And what I do sometimes when I'm busy, I get on my Bible app on my phone and I read the verse of the day, or pull up, or start one of those devotional plans, and I read that. And those plans, they're usually pretty good. Usually, you just have to pick out the right ones. But But listen. If you don't start feeding yourself, you will burn out. Even if you are just attending church right now and keeping Him number one, or maybe you are attending church and not keeping Him number one. And I know I understand that it's hard to do because I was there to really feed yourself. I mean, it seems like so much time you spend. It seems like really a long time if you just read the Bible, read a chapter, and like I'm reading Isaiah right now, and the book of Isaiah is just long, and sometimes when I'm reading it, it feels like I've been reading for 4 hours and I've been reading for like 20. And I struggled with what Bible verse to use for this one because I had a Bible verse for each of them. When I asked the Lord what revealed to me what Bible verse to use, He showed me that. I mean, really, what is the Bible for? The Bible is to draw closer, to study, and really you learn Him, and you read it, and you draw closer to Him. And praying is really, it's a direct access to talk to God. It's like getting out your phone and calling one of your friends and talking to them. And that's really, I believe that's what praying is, just really just a direct access to talk to God. But what verse I settled on was Colossians 3:16, and it says, "Let the word of Christ dwell richly among you in all wisdom, teaching, admonishing one another through psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts." Now would you put on just a little bit of music? I struggled with how I was going to end this because most of the time they have an altar call, and that's the way I felt led to go. And so, what I want to ask you, just a few questions. I mean, really, are you keeping Him number one? Are you saved? Are you a Christian? Do you have a mindset for Christ? Mindset for number one? Is there anything distracting you from Him? Are you being obedient to all in authority over you? And are you loving others like you should? And finally, are you feeding yourself? I remember when Pastor Kevin said those words, and they stuck me like a knife because I knew that I was not doing that. And I wish that I would have started after hearing him say that, but I didn't. It took me a while. It took me a while to actually start spending time with the Lord. And so really take it from experience. It is so much better when you start. I mean, it's like you really have a peace about things. And I'm not saying everything's just going to be easy. I'm just saying it's going to be easier knowing that God is by your side and He has you through all of it. And you just have to really just trust in Him. So I want to offer y'all the opportunity just to really, I'm not going to say come to the altar or anything. I'm going to start my praying, closing this out, and to really think about these things. And if any of these things apply to you, just ask Him to really give you a mindset like Christ. Give you a mindset for Christ. Or an obedient spirit. That's hard for me to be obedient to all those. Or maybe you really don't. Or maybe it's a loving spirit that you need, and you have trouble loving people like Jesus has commanded us to do. Or maybe you're here and you want to ask Jesus to come into your life and you want Him to save you. And if that is you, or if any of these apply to you, I just really want to say, the Lord, He is always, in these past few months, I've noticed that with this keeping Jesus number one, everything that's happened to me and I've done in these past few months, it has really shown me that this message was, it was very important to me, and I'm sure And it's something I believe that's important to all of us. I mean, as Christians, we have to keep Him number one no matter what. We really just have to keep Him number one. So I just I'm gonna pray over us real quick, and I know I went pretty fast, but I believe I covered everything. But I'm gonna just pray over us, and I just pray if that is you, I just pray you just ask the Lord to help you and to guide you. And if you do want to ask Jesus in your heart, I pray after I encourage you after service just to grab me or any of the adults in here just to talk to us. And we'll pray with you. So I'll just bow your heads and I'll pray. Lord, I just thank you for allowing me to remember everything to say and allowing me to speak it. And even though I got through pretty fast, I believe that you really, the words you've given me has really affected somebody in this room, Lord. And I just thank you for that, Lord. And I just pray if there's anyone in this room that needs an obedient spirit or a loving spirit, Lord God, I just pray you just really, you just shape their hearts for that, Lord. I pray, God, if they need a mindset like you, Lord, a mindset for Christ, and to keep you number one, I just pray, God, you show them how to do that, God, and hold their hand through all of it, Lord. And I just thank you for tonight, Lord Jesus, and I just praise you, and I just give you all the glory, and I just thank you. Turn up the music just a little bit for a second. Oh. So I just really want y'all just to really think for a minute. And I'm done. I just want y'all to talk to God and see if there's anything that He wants y'all to get out of y'all's hearts. And I just take a second. All right. I thank y'all for coming here and putting up with me tonight. I know I'm a handful, but I just thank y'all all for coming and thank y'all for listening to me. I just pray y'all have a great rest of the week and just trust in Him. And really, I encourage y'all this week just to start somewhere. I found just reading in John. And John's a very easy chapter to read, and it's good. And I just thank y'all. And you have anything? And they have food in there tonight. So I guess that's it. Sign up.
Get up, Noah.